Lifting and pushing yourself in the gym to build muscle, lose fat, and get the body you want is necessary, of course. But something we tend to ignore or overlook is that our joints can take a huge beating from this, especially if we don't watch out for certain things. So in today's video, I'm going to cover those things, how to preserve your joints, and how to even improve them from lifting weights. What is up, everyone? My name is John Mango. I'm representing Beyond the Iron, where we're looking to take your fitness and nutrition further so you may change your life forever. Now, on this channel, in case you're new, we do a lot of workout videos, tips, tricks, nutrition, reviews, all that stuff. We also cover topics that are essential to your health and fitness while trying to build your dream body, just like this one. So if you're new, that stuff interests you, then consider subscribing. So how it's gonna work is I'm basically gonna start by giving you several ways that you will damage and break down your joints over time. That is most commonly seen, and this is the reason why 99% of people don't last in the gym. And then if you stay until the end, I'm gonna be going over exactly how you can actually improve and strengthen your joints through your lifting and increasing your longevity and increasing your gains over time. Let's dive in. First and foremost, the most important thing you can do to avoid breaking your joints down and letting them take a beating over time is learning the correct form. Now, it seems obvious, and you might be responsible for doing this as well, but most people in the gym don't hold themselves to a high enough standard for their form when lifting weights. And the reason is usually because of just unawareness. People don't understand how important each single lift you do in terms of form and how much of an impact that's actually gonna have on your body over time. It's just like the compound effect on anything. Over time, little incremental things you do on a daily basis is gonna lead to long-term growth or just long-term loss of gains. And of course, not holding yourself to a high standard on this is what leads to the also common, well, you know, when I was your age, I was able to bench 600 pounds. Oh, really? How much do you bench now? You can't. Okay, that's what I thought. Take a seat, Gramps. I'll take it from here. Now, you may or may not have noticed now that I bring this up, but proper form, and I'm talking proper form, is an extremely rare thing to see in the gym. And I'm talking like maybe 2% of lifters are executing with proper form. The reason, besides unawareness, is also the fact that it's very difficult to do because it involves dissolution of the ego. I don't know why I'm trying to fancy it up, but it basically means that you gotta put your ego aside, and it's a very hard thing to do, especially for males. So typically, you'll see much more females being smarter with their lifts than males. Males are just trying to lift as much weight as possible, as many times as possible, without realizing how detrimental that's gonna be in the long term. All right, the second thing you need to do, and this is gonna be in combination with the first thing that I mentioned, is you gotta lift with controlled tempo. So I'm not saying you gotta lift every single time, every rep with a 2, 1, 1, 3, 0, 4, like, you know, you don't need to count and think that much. But one thing I recommend is avoid doing things such as the common bouncing the bar off the chest from a bench press, right? So this is the most common. Again, this is gonna lead to the ego taking over and wanting to lift as much as possible. Maybe you start benching like this at first, no problem, nice and controlled, and over time, you wanna keep increasing, you start bouncing it, and I'll see you never, shoulders. Another commonly seen form of improper tempo is gonna be, for example, bouncing on a squat. People typically get to the bottom, they bounce back up. Obviously, and I mean anybody will be able to see this and realize that your knees are gonna take a beating every single time. That joint's just gonna keep wearing over and over and over, and eventually it's gonna snap. So if that's the case, what do I recommend? Well, pretty straightforward. You don't have to count every rep, 1, 2, 3. This would be probably the ideal situation, but it's very tedious, very annoying, and it's probably gonna take the fun out of lifting in general. But what you can do instead is try to incorporate a slight pause at the bottom of every exercise. This is gonna ensure that you're taking the momentum out of it and that your reps are gonna be consistent over time, preserving your joints and actually providing more progression as you go on. So you might think that this is similar to the first one, but you can have very controlled form, as I've seen in the past, but if your form is garbage, then you too will be garbage. All right, so another crucial thing to avoid is reaching mechanical, and especially avoid reaching absolute failure on all compound lifts. So of course I used to be responsible for doing this in the past, most novice amateur lifters are responsible for doing this, and that's all right. Sometimes they just got to learn the hard way. The ones that don't learn the hard way heed the advice that myself and others that learn the hard way will progress that much faster. However, if you are not a novice or beginner lifter, you've been in the gym for a few years or more, and you consider yourself a personal trainer, an expert, fitness, whatever, you better not be going to failure on compound exercises. Meaning, if you have a spotter and they're helping you on the bench, you have a spotter getting a bicep pump while you, oh, look at the bicep. You have a spotter getting a bicep pump while you're benching, then hey, you have no idea what you're doing. It's that simple, because if you did, you would understand that reaching mechanical and especially absolute failure on any compound lift is one, going to significantly increase your risk of injury. Again, the joint's gonna get demolished. Over time, you're gonna be putting severe stress on the joints, which leads to that injury. And you're immediately negatively affecting your performance for the rest of the workout, for that workout, and potentially for the week. Why? Because immediately you have cut the total amount of volume, intensity, and overall frequency throughout the week that you're gonna be able to tolerate. So reaching failure is the way a lot of injuries happen, especially on dangerous compound exercises. Reaching mechanical failure, meaning you're not able to perform another rep with good form. Absolute failure is you cannot perform another rep at all, even with bad form. Reaching this on absolute failure should always be thrown out the window, but reaching mechanical failure can be okay on certain isolation exercises, since they're single joint and usually lighter weight than a massive exercise requiring heavy weight that could put you in a dangerous position. So that's something to keep in mind. Reaching failure, no good for the joints. And I want you to comment below actually, do you reach failure? I'm not gonna ream you out. I probably will actually, but I just want to see who thinks that reaching failure is a good idea and why, because I know that there's a lot of sources out there on the internet, on YouTube, that are saying failure is good, forced reps are good. This is all complete BS. And I want to comment below, see what you guys think about the whole reaching failure thing. And hey, let me know, maybe I'll make a video on that topic alone. Just keep in mind that if your spotter has to help you and you keep going with the spotter helping you, listen, you can't do that weight properly. Put it down, drop the weight, improve your standard for form, and just move on. Keep the ego aside, because if not, it's gonna hinder your performance and it could eventually just take you out of the game altogether, as I've seen so many people happen to, unfortunately. And luckily, I am not one of them, because I did make some stupid mistakes in the past that I will never repeat again. And I hope you don't either. All right, so that being said, those are basically the three main things that I would say typically lead to degeneration of the joints over time through lifting. Of course, there's things such as age, genetics, and certain diseases or rheumatoid arthritis in general, that kind of stuff. However, there are ways that you can improve the longevity of your joints, regardless of whether or not they are affected by illness, or just in general, if you want to improve your longevity, or if your joints are currently weak, maybe you're older, whatever the case may be, there are ways to improve your joint health. Okay, now the first one's going to be real simple, is strengthening and building the muscles around that joint is typically a very effective way to improve and even sometimes completely fix joint problems. Now, I've experienced this with many clients that I currently train and coach through my workout programs and through my protocols, basically direct the customized program to them to build the muscles around the joint effectively without having to involve heavy weight or heavy load on the joint. And over time, they have been amazed at how much better their problem with that joint has become. So a lot of the times, the medicine is working out, is fitness, is gains. Gains is medicine. Just again, make sure that you are building those muscles correctly, and that's also going to move into the next point. So the next thing you can do is, maybe you don't have any joint problems and you're strengthening your muscles over time, but one thing to keep in mind is make sure when you're strengthening them, you are taking your muscles through a full range of motion. So that would mean, for example, the bicep, complete extension of the arm, as well as full flexion of the arm. If you want to take it one step further, the full range of motion for the bicep is extension of the arm as well as extension of the shoulder. This is the completely stretched position of the bicep. Now, if you want to fully contract the bicep, it is not just complete flexion of the arm, but also flexion of the shoulder, okay? So this, if I show you right now, this to this is a complete range of motion, so you can incorporate exercises that cover that. But for the most part, you know, it's better that you go all the way down and all the way up on a bicep curl, all the way down, all the way up on a squat, all the way down, all the way up on a bench. Any exercise you can find, always take the muscle through the full range of motion. Now I see plenty of people not doing this, and that's simply from a lack of training themselves to do that in the first place, meaning they're creating the bad habit of stopping before they should. Why? Because one, it's a mental thing that they need to get over. Two, they're probably doing too much weight and or they're failing. And three, they're not aware of how much more growth and how much more potential you'll get out of that muscle and that exercise from going all the way through the range of motion, okay? It's that much safer, you get that much more out of it. It's just a win-win. So range of motion, huge. Now another thing to improve the joints would be to warm them up effectively before the workout begins. So, you know, if you're doing an upper body day, in reality you should be warming up all joints regardless. Starting with some light cardio to get the blood pumping is huge. Connective tissues that you'll find in joints, around bones, that kind of stuff, and tendons, ligaments don't get as much of a blood supply as the actual muscle itself. So to keep that in mind, you always want a good supply of blood flowing in general, starting with light cardio, and then from there you want to specifically and directly target those muscles. So for example, I always do shoulder warm-ups before my upper body days, stuff like external rotation for the rotator cuff, also a supraspinatus, meaning rotator cuff warm-up would be a side raise with the thumb facing up. Hold for half a second, nice and controlled, that kind of stuff. You know, some of these external rotation here. Just want to make sure that you're warming the joint up with very lightweight, because this is going to actually activate the joint and make sure that it's in a safe, ready to go position for those heavy weights you're going to be hitting with them soon. Now, does this actually improve your joints? It does over time, because again, you're going to be strengthening, getting blood supply to the connective tissues around the joints, and then from there you can safely build the muscles around them. Your joints are going to get stronger, they're going to get healthier, they're going to get better. So warming up is very important. If over time you keep going in cold and you start lifting cold, your joints are not going to have that blood supply that they need, and this can often lead to, you know, tears, injuries, things of that nature. Combine that with the problems I mentioned beforehand, and you're done. Now, of course, we gotta address the audience that wants to know, what can I take? What pill can I take to fix my life? Well, there's a couple things that could help with your joints. One that I found was glucosamine. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I recommend that you check in with your doctor before taking any supplements. This is just advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, glucosamine has helped people that I know of course. They've checked in with their doctor and all that first. Another thing is, of course, multivitamins. So things that will get you a lot of calcium to strengthen the bones, and again, the connective tissue around the joints, make sure everything's flowing well. There's plenty of other vitamins that will help to keep that joint healthy and help keep the rest of your bodily functions healthy, which of course, everything's connected. If one part of your body's got a huge weakness, it could eventually spread into other things. Over time, your entire body's gonna break down, and that includes your joints. Now, the last thing that is extremely important and will save your joints so much over time is stretching every day. If you can stretch every single day, it's going to dramatically improve the health of your joints. It's going to improve your muscle potential for growth, which of course, more growth, more strength, executed with proper form over time, leads to better joints, better longevity in general. This is how you get healthier, this is how you live longer, this is how you live better. So stretching every single day, try to get that habit down. All you need is 5 to 10 minutes a day, and you'll see dramatic changes, because you don't have to worry so much about injury, tightness of the joints. Let's say, for example, I have a stretching routine, by the way, you can check it out right here. Very popular video. Basically, I go through a stretching routine to correct posture. So one thing is over time, if your posture starts getting too rounded forward, what's happening is actually in your joints. This is the socket of the joint. The ball and socket joint is what we call the shoulder. And basically the humerus, meaning the bone, the upper arm bone, is sitting in front of where it should be, and it's actually causing pressure in the shoulder, and this obviously leads down the line to the common shoulder injuries from bench pressing, bicep curls, bicep tears, that kind of stuff. So stretching there and making sure things aren't tight will make a massive difference over time. It's not something you feel right away, which is why it's so easy to be overlooked. But trust me, you do these things and you will last longer than the next guy or the next girl, meaning you will make more gains over time and you don't have to worry about injury. And then you're gonna be 60 or 70 years old and you're gonna be like, yeah, you know, when I was your age, I was a pussy. Now I'm lifting like 4 times that. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and join the BTI squad. If you enjoyed it, comment below. Let me know what else you'd like to see. Any other vids, I got them coming every week. Let's go. Thanks again. Always appreciate the support, and I'll talk to you in the next one. I'm out.